Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Red Valkyrie Presents. I am, of course, Shae the Red, with my camera hidden because, I'm having difficulty breathing, and when you guys see the camera on, you'll know why. So I want the benefit of the reveal, because if I have to yawn, I think I'm going to crack a rib. So, I am here with the amazing CY.borg Valkyrie. How are you?
Awesome. How you doing? Other than, the ribs.
Yeah, it's fine. It'll be good. It's totally worth it, and I feel thin, despite the fact that this costume also makes me simultaneously feel fat as hell. It's fine. It's bursting. As long as it holds me in, we're good. Look at Gordon Goodbrother. Please don't die. I'm not going to. I think I'll be okay. Worst case scenario, if I have to turn off my camera and let it out a little, I will. But I think we're good. We're here with our very good friend. We haven't seen you in a minute. Mike, how are you?
It's been a minute. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. When was the last time we had you on?
I'm guessing Deepwell, because
holy shit, it was.
Yeah, because we spent last year in production hell, so I didn't really, there were no campaigns up.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. I remember, because I was like, I feel like I haven't talked to Mike in months and months.
yeah, we had some production issues with God's Fear Me, and then there were some family issues on Raphael's end with Deepwell. So, we kind of had to sit 2021 out a little bit.
Dude, I'm telling you, 2021 was a rough year for, everyone.
It was.
Best to just sit it out.
Yeah.
It was not a nice year to people.
It really wasn't. So.
Welcome, Peyton. He says, greetings, awesome people. I'm glad that you feel we're awesome. Or maybe that's just for Mike. That's cool, too. We're okay with it, Peyton.
Hey, Peyton.
All right, so before we get into why we are here, I'm going to turn on my camera so I don't suffer for no reason. You're at least going to get the benefit of...
wait. Yeah, there you go.
I got it. You ready? Drum roll. I'm just kidding. No drum roll. It's really not. It's not that big of a deal. But
I can pull up a drum roll.
Hey,
Shae's blonde. Yay!
That turned out great.
Not bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really funny. So for people who don't know, you'll see the character in black and white. And I actually messaged Mike and I was like, "Hey, Mike, what color is her hair by chance? Is it maybe red?" And he goes, "She's actually a blonde." I'm like, "Of course she's a fucking blonde." But it gave me an excuse to get a new wig, and I gotta say, actually, I don't hate it. I don't like being blonde.
Wait, you mean you don't dye your hair each cosplay? What the fuck?
That would be hilarious, though. Oh my gosh, if I could get away with that.
We've been robbed. All right, cancel the channel.
Right.
So here's the funny thing. Are you ready, Mike? If I let my hair grow out natural and actually spent a little bit of time in the sun, this is my hair color.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is my actual natural hair color would be this.
I never knew that.
No, the funny thing is, anytime I've gone back to blonde, all I ever hear is, "Are you feeling okay?" you don't seem quite as well. People think that I'm ill, something horrible has happened to me, and every single time it's happened, I'm always like, I'm never going blonde again, because it washes me out so much. But this is my natural color.
Yeah, that's a weird. I heard Christina Hendricks isn't a redhead either. She's blonde. So
wow.
That's a weird. I never knew that.
Well, you know what I think it is when you are as horrendously pale as I am, you just look better with red hair.
Yeah.
Red hair people go, "Yeah, that looks right," and then you do this and people go, "Oh, that doesn't look right. Things look wrong. Are you okay?"
Sure. Yeah,
but that's even, I've done my hair black and I've had people be like, yeah, that's your natural hair color. And I was like, not even close, but okay.
Yeah. Red hair just seems to complement better fair complexion.
It does. I think it's all the Irish kids that are born that way.
Oh, I looked amazing as a redhead in high school. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because
I have definitely messed up my wig doing this though.
I am as pale as Shae.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sai understands the pale issue for sure.
Right.
We compete over who is more white.
Well, one of us has had skin cancer like 4 times, so I think that one wins.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You win the super pale awards.
I win the albino vampire award.
Right?
Yay.
Okay.
I get the least amount of sun. No, I get the least amount of sun.
Yeah. Oh, we went to Ren Fair. It was hilarious because Sai was totally covered.
Yeah.
And the first day of Ren Fair, I had a shirt that went across like this. I got so fried. And we weren't even like, it wasn't a particularly hot day or super, like, I mean, it was sunny, but like we hung out, we were in a forest areas. We were like under trees and stuff. You would have thought that I like ran out to the ocean and just like sat in water and was like, just bake me, it's fine. Like I was beet red and it was...
No, I'm the same way. Like first day of summer, I immediately have trucker arm. Like I don't even have
Yeah, I've actually gotten sunburned driving my car.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like it's the saddest thing in the world.
And you live in the north. And you get sunburned. I mean, for me, I mean, being in Florida, of course. I mean, I'm on the sun, but
at least you're in Florida. Yeah, no, I'm hanging out in Maryland. It's like, yeah, I'm still
right. Yeah, and I gotta prepare myself for that. Like in the next 2 years, we're gonna probably be moving to Florida. So, yeah.
Shae,
I know we're gonna have to make sure your mom doesn't move so we can
have a vacation home.
Yeah.
In the south of Saul. Yeah.
Well, let's get to why we are here.
Nah, let's just bullshit for an hour and then call it.
I mean, we totally
hang out. It's fine.
We totally could, except I've already backed, and I would like this to come to fruition. So I would like to talk about it because I would very much appreciate this hitting funding.
She's so demanding.
I am, damn it. All of you assholes back now. Isn't that's how e-thoughts do it, right?
There you go.
Listen here, you pieces of shit, go back. I don't understand.
Make more money.
Just make more money. Why don't you just work more hours? I can't even say this shit.
$1, what are you doing?
I honestly can't. Like, I feel bad for the joke of saying it. Okay.
You have shame, and
yeah, it's because I'm not a horrible entitled piece of shit. Go figure. Okay, so before we jump into what Longshadow is, do you want to watch a trailer?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sweet. Hold on, before we do. This is why I love Dave. Dave pops in and he goes, "You had me at pieces of shit." I love you, Dave. This is amazing. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Maybe.
Share the right one this time.
There you go.
What, the video starts and both of you decide to chug your drinks at the same time?
That is awesome. So I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for it because Sumo Thori said if Shae wanted to be cosplay accurate, she'd be naked.
Yeah. Do you want to?
We talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
Who's the naked chick?
So every noir story has to have a femme fatale, and our femme fatale is Redlocks, who is the redhead naked with the black sword.
That is not who I am cosplaying for obvious reasons.
No, you are not.
In fact, that was the first thing I said to Mike. Is I was like, "You have a redhead, and she is naked the entire time with a giant sword." And he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Are you sure this isn't the same girl?" He goes, "No, that's a different girl, and she's blonde." I was like, "Well, shit, I guess I'm getting a blonde wig, because if I'm naked on YouTube, that's how we get a channel strike unless I somehow manage to do yoga and say that it's instructional." And that's not happening. Sorry, guys.
It's going to be a very short stream.
God damn it. That was what's new in 2022.
I'm not doing naked yoga.
Naked hot yoga.
Look at Eric says that I have failed all of you. I'm sorry. Sai had said that they campaigned very hard to try and get me in that cosplay, and I refused adamantly, which Sumo said thank you for trying to look out for the chat side.
Right. Oh, you're welcome, Sumo. You know, I'm first and foremost, I am a viewer.
Good Brother points out that when I'm small screen and our names are up, I do look naked.
That's true.
So...
That's true.
Hold on, lean forward.
Small screen.
There you go. Naked.
Not naked, sorry. Just titties up. Oh my gosh.
She's just trying to compete.
There's no competing with that. I paid good money for those chips for you. All right. So, Longshadow, before...
Hold on.
Creators Outlet. That might be the one way to get Eric to buy patches. Look at Sumo. Sumo's like, hold on, let me just switch to my phone real quick. Y'all are terrible and thirsty. It's fine. Okay.
Don't shame them for their thirst, goddammit. Monetize it.
I'm just saying, our PayPal link is there if you're enjoying the show. Okay. Longshadow is a high fantasy pulp novel. So it's not like your other projects that have all been graphic novels. Yeah. This is a straight novel.
I mean, it's pulp, so it's an illustrated novel. You know, there's going to be between 20 and 30 spot illustrations throughout the entire thing. You know, I know like pulp is kind of an old format and not a lot of people are familiar with it, but like the pulps predate comics, and in a lot of ways were kind of the blueprints for what evolved into comics. And I've always loved the format, and I just, this is my attempt to kind of modernize it and streamline it for, current audiences. And I just wanted something quick that I could get into people's hands within 6 months, because we've got 2 big campaigns coming out this year, God's Fear Me 2 and The Red Key, and those are both going to take the better part of a year to get out to people. So, like I said, I just wanted something that was like really quick, and I started thinking about pulps.
That I think that is really awesome, and I like the art. Sumo Thori. Sumo, thank you for the $1, sir. We appreciate you. So does Angry Dancing Taco.
Right.
He is happy.
Is he? He seems a little pissy. He seems like a pissy taco, but what do I know? I'm not a taco aficionado.
If your cheese was hanging out, you would be a little,
yeah.
Wow. Back to what I was saying that had nothing to do with cheese. Why? Go back to the campaign.
I was looking at things hanging out. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. Sumo, thank you for the $5. Says the $1 chip is too easy to pass. I appreciate you, Sumo.
And he's dancing on queso legs. Look at that.
He is. Yeah. He is. He seems confused to me, is really how he seems. Okay, so I really, really love this piece. I love that you got Preston doing a pinup for you, which is awesome, because this, like, she's not just, like, ripped. She's, like, super curvy ripped. I don't even, like, how the fuck do you get thighs like that? Like,
I know, right? Those are some Chun-Li thighs.
Like, seriously, I think I'd have to squat for a year. And then I might, but if I had those thighs, I sure as shit wouldn't have that waist. I don't understand. Like, she's an anomaly.
Look at those calves.
Like, I know!
Like turkey legs.
Dude, she is gonna wreck your world. Like, I feel like she could just, like, crouch down and, like, Super Saiyan jump or some shit. And, like, we wouldn't see her for the better part of a year before she'd come back down.
Look at those shoulders. She will kill you. She is
so terrifying. And I love the claws that he gave her too, because it just really kind of sells this whole primal, like, the reason she's naked is because clothing doesn't matter. That's not the point. She has a job. She's here to do the job.
Right.
And really trying to find clothes because other people, like, if anything else, running around totally naked, it's just going to be everybody else super distracted.
Right.
Dirbink. We're not even dirjinking now. We're dirbinking. What is happening? Thank you, Eric, for the $5 super chat.
Taco.
Y'all are too much today. This is funny. We're just going to sit here and stare for Taco.
Stare at my tits until the taco happens.
The second you go small screen, Taco will show up. Yeah.
So, this is the third time around that Preston's handling alt cover duties for us. And there's Taco.
There's Taco.
And yeah, like, as usual, he killed it. The only direction I gave him was go full for Zeta. And, he ran with it.
Yep. Sounds about right. Dude, I love, like, the way the demon looks and everything, especially because it's just so much better because she's new. Do you see all these little, like, this little hobgoblin dude chilling right over here?
Right.
He just looks like he's like, I have the best view in the world and my life is complete right now. Like, he just seems so fucking happy. And then you see this guy and he's like, ha 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 ha, I can't wait. And she has this look of, like, do you see how I'm not even concerned?
Right.
Like, I own these bitches. Like, I'm not even worried. None of them are going to touch me because I will absolutely destroy them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, look, I love the alt cover he did for Gods Fear Me, and I really like the one that he did for Deepwell, but I think this is the favorite piece he's done. My favorite piece he's done for us.
I would agree. Out of all of the pieces I've seen him do, I think that this is probably my favorite. So Dave is asking, what was her sword called?
Her sword is called Dark Grin.
Okay. Dark Grin?
Yeah.
That would explain why she has this super malicious looking smile on her face.
Yeah, and what I've been saying, because you don't want to go into full spoilers, but what I've been saying and teasing out with her is the main question is, does she own the sword or does the sword own her? I'm a big fan of possessed weapon storytelling in RPGs and novels. So we're gonna have some fun with that. And Longshadow's blade there is called Elder Pain. In this fantasy world, when dragons are pretty much extinct, if not near extinct, and when they decompose and fossilize, their bones turn into this crystalline-like material, and so the sword is literally forged from the bones of a dragon.
Oh, that is cool. I really like that, and I like in this where you've got so much grayscale. I love the fact that there is, like, zero detail visible on her blade, which really sells that it's like, oh, this is like a dark matter blade. Yeah. Like, this is like a blade that's almost like a black hole. Like, there's no distinguishing feature you're going to get from it because it's just fucking pure evil.
Right.
Like, it... Does it exist or does it not exist? You don't really fucking know. It's obviously
until it's
evil.
Shoved through your fucking heart.
Right, and then you're like, well, that felt pretty real, and now I'm dead. But hey, if you get killed by this, this is my kind of thought. If you get killed by this, do you actually die, or do you just end up in a world of dark, evil torment? Because...
These are great questions.
They are, and I'm not going to have you answer a single fucking one of them, because if you spoil, Mike... coming for you.
Oh my god, don't say that. Now it's clipped.
Uh-oh.
What is wrong with you, Cy? If you would shut the fuck up on things like that, then it wouldn't be a thing.
Oh, you think I'm the only one that notices these things?
I think you're the only one that notices them that quickly and that other people would not notice unless somebody made a deal out of it.
Right.
Anyway. Shut up, Cy. Yeah, I'm. It's funny because you see a couple of small pictures and have like this much of a story, and if you go into this is what I know about pulp, this is what I know about fantasy, so then you start making wild assumptions as to what everything could be, and I'm really excited to get the book and see how far off base I am.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like I do with most of my projects. And I've talked about this elsewhere. Like I always want to bring something new to whatever it is I work on, like whatever genre it is. Like it's the superhero equivalent of you never want to produce a book that's like, hey, here's my not Batman comic. Like,
yeah.
And so I wanted to bring that with fantasy, and I don't know. I think it's an unconscious thing, but like my brain just has this thing where it always like mashes genres together. Like even the previous campaigns we've done like have kind of been genre mashups, and yeah, like I've been role playing as Longshadow for the better part of a decade now. So I always knew that he had detective like characteristics. But applying that to like building a fantasy world from the ground up, it kind of becomes this fantasy noir mashup.
Right. That's really it's so interesting and entertaining because like I like fantasy, but I feel like a lot of fantasy stories get so up their own ass.
Yeah, and I agree, and like this is another thing that I've been talking about lately. I think, okay, like, because I don't want to like come off as insulting or like above it all, but like,
yeah,
it's this thing where like I feel like with most genres you can tell a whole bunch of different types of stories, but with fantasy it feels like if you've read say a dozen fantasy novels or seen like about a dozen fantasy movies, like you've seen what the genre has to offer.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's because people get so excited about telling a story with a giant dragon or going on a huge quest through the wilderness or having magic and, mages and assassins and all these different things. I think that people get in a box with that. And they're like, every time you read one of those stories, it's not quite what you would have done. And so then people want to tell that story, but their version of it. And exactly. It's made the genre very saturated with the same, like 7 or 8 storylines.
Yeah. Look, that's what fan fiction is for. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. Right. But that, I feel like because of the nature of fantasy, instead of doing fan fiction, almost everybody is like, well, I liked this character, but I'd make them an orc. And so now it's suddenly an entirely new story because, well, he was a human before, but now he's an orc. And so that can't be the same thing.
But we're still going to follow the same basic trope.
Exactly. We're still going to, it's the same thing. But see, we didn't fight a bunch of goblins. We fought a couple of trolls, and it wasn't deep in the woods, it was at the top of a mountain. And you're like, it's the same story. You have changed tiny details. And nothing with the trajectory. The trajectory has all stayed the same. The lessons learned, the story, the plot, everything has stayed the same. You just, like, changed a few minuscule details and called it an entirely different story.
Yeah, and so, you know, like, it was one part, you know, adding noir into the mix, but also, you know, assuming, like, we can find our audience and this hits funding and it becomes sustainable, ideally, I would like to do 3 trilogies, so 9 books in total. And each trilogy is a different era of the Kingdom of Elos. And what I mean is, this isn't a spoiler because it's right at the start of the story. Longshadow is cursed with immortality. And so I wanted to do a trilogy that, like, is kind of in the mold of traditional fantasy, but again, adding noir elements. And then the middle trilogy is going to be a modern day fantasy world. I use Scotty Young's Middle West and what the movie Max Landis wrote for Netflix, Bright. I use those two as kind of a reference point for that era. And then for the 3rd volume, like, we're going full Warhammer 40K.
Yes.
So yeah, and like, that was my thing. Like, whenever I hear about, like, these big epic fantasies books or, you know, series planned out, it's like you always see it through the frame of this one specific time period, and I'm like, you know, there's a whole timeline that you can play with, and it's still technically fantasy, you know.
Right. Well, and I think that it's just so many people. It gets really hard when you start writing for a genre, like deciding this is the genre I'm going to write.
Right.
It gets really hard to not get stuck in that box. Like, it's the same thing. Horror does it a lot, which is why there's so much horror that just isn't.
Sure.
Because there's so much where people are like, oh, well, I'm writing horror and I'm going to write a slasher. And you're like, and it's going to be like every other slasher that has ever existed in the history of ever, because how much can you honestly do with a slasher?
Right.
It's a dude. It's going to be a dude. He's going to have some kind of a blade. Lots of teenagers are going to die, probably in the middle of having sex. That's usually what happens in a slasher movie.
Right.
Like,
so, and it's funny you mentioned that, because, like, next year, assuming I have the time, there's a project that I want to do. It'll probably be a comic called Rune. That's do you remember, like, a decade ago, Grant Morrison did a run on Batman?
I remember hearing about it. I didn't ever pick it up. But
okay, basically he treated Batman as if every single comic that Batman ever appeared in happened to one person.
Oh wow.
And
wow.
he condensed it down to, like, the 30s through the 50s were, like, the first 5 years of his career, and just, like, that was his run. And I want to do this story called Rune that's about a slasher archetype, but, like, just imagine, like, if you've ever seen all the Friday the 13th films, like, all at once, it's this crazy thing where you're like, if this actually happened to one person, it would be this batshit crazy thing. And so, like, I want to tell the story of a slasher character who experiences all these, like, crazy ups and downs, and it's actually condensed down into one lifespan. So maybe next year that'll be a release from us.
That would actually be rather interesting. Your mama had a great question. Said, can't wait for this to come out. Any chance you could make a choose your own adventure style book or series?
That's a good idea. I've never thought of that, but sure, I could try it.
I mean, honestly, I think if there's somebody who could pull it off, because you and I have talked extensively about how all of your projects are so, like, polar opposites of each other.
Right.
And you know, I remember in one of our interviews you said it's because you had so many different ideas and you decided that you wanted to do at least one in each of these genre ideas that you had. And so you could get, here's my sci-fi, and here's my fantasy, and here's my pulp novel, and here's, you know, whatever.
Right.
If anyone could do it, I think with the amount of just absolutely insane ideas that you have in your head, you could probably do a choose your own adventure. It might take some finagling.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could make it happen.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, like, I tried, there's this, I can't remember the name of it, but there's this really basic programming app that basically lets you design text adventures. And so it basically boils down to writing a choose your own adventure. I tried messing with that thing like 4 or 5 years ago, and it can be done, but that's a ton of work.
Oh yeah, because I feel like the only way to really make something like that work is if you have, as a writer, this ends up happening for a lot of people. You have a story, and you've got 2 or 3 directions that story can go in.
Right.
And you're equally happy about all of them.
Yeah.
That's about the only time that you can really take a story and be like, I'm going to make a choose your own adventure, because you can make each of those potential storylines something entertaining and something that you like. But in order for it to really feel like a choose your own adventure, you have to fracture that off a couple of times, which means that you're taking one story concept and making like probably close to about 15 possibilities.
Yeah.
In order for it to be satisfying.
You're basically writing 3 separate short stories all at the same time.
At least.
And then those 3 like fracture into like different, subplots.
Well, that's the thing, is there's so much that could happen with that. It could be really, really cool, but I think doing it successly would be very tricky.
Yeah,
But I still think that you would be able to handle
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, and what's interesting is, like, since the last time that we had that conversation, with the Red Key, I've decided to go whole hog and start building a multiverse, and the Red Key is going to be at the focal point of all of it. So it's I always say it's less MCU. Like, you're not going to see Sam Jackson like walk into a scene and just try to co-op somebody. It's less that, and it's more Stephen King's approach to a multiverse, where like you can read each of these stories individually, and we're grateful if you do. But if you're crazy enough to like read every single thing that we put out, you're going to start to see some connective tissue.
Which I think is the best way to do it. I think that's really cool. So Sumo's got a really good question, and I'm glad that you brought this up, Sumo, because if you didn't, I was going to force Mike to do this anyway.
Sure.
Pulp is something, like you said, it's not as popular as it used to be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who don't really have a full grasp of exactly what a pulp fiction novel looks like.
Sure.
So can you describe that a little bit to us, as well as Sumo's specific question of kind of what's the picture to page count ratio?
Sure. So, for anyone that backed The Gods Fear Me and got the prequel novella, the way that looked is kind of the approach that we're going to be taking with this. And that is to say, each chapter is going to have between 2 to 3 spot illustrations, and those illustrations are going to be different sizes. Some will be like a quarter of a page, a third of a page. Some will be just like little tiny illustrations that fit in like the top right corner. And then most chapter pages have like a splash image that kind of sets the tone for what the entire chapter is going to be like.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And, pulps were really, really popular. Gosh, before me growing up, but they were still pretty around, like 80s and 90s, and they just kind of died off. Do you have any idea or any theories as to like why that might have been? Because I feel like the audience is there. I mean, you and I both like these kinds of things. I remember reading a lot of novels that had the enhancing pictures and stuff that really just kind of pulled you into it. It made things feel more concrete instead of, me trying to remember what random like attributes I gave to a character and then getting, 5 chapters in and realizing I fucked up somewhere in my recall and I made them into something they're not. Now I have to go back and figure out what I fucked up.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like our generation was the last that like really kind of had any exposure to this stuff. I grew up with my dad collected Doc Savage and Shadow pulp reprints. So like after the pulps themselves died out, like the way the publishers would still keep making money on them is they reprinted them as like little paperback novels, and they usually like stripped out the illustrations so it was just text.
Probably a lot of it on pocketbooks.
Yeah, a ton of pocketbooks. So I grew up with like these giant walls of like Doc Savage novels, but after that, like it kind of like fully ran its lifespan. I feel it started with the creation of comics, that just kind of pulled everyone's attention away from these things. But you had overseas in Europe, like you had the giallos, which the cover itself is an homage to giallo covers. And this is I'm trying not to go too nerdy on people. So like giallos in Italy and Europe were pulp or crime novels with yellow, because giallo is Italian for yellow. They had these yellow covers with like circular inset illustrations, and those kind of evolved into giallo movies, like the crazy fluorescent hyper violent movies that you see, like Suspiria, and is probably the most popular.
Suspiria fucked me up. Yeah, that was even the remake, like
I know.
There's so many scenes in that just make you want to like, why am I watching this? This just feels
and
so bad.
That's what giallo's good at. I mean, giallo is good at just making you feel gross.
It's really unsettling.
Yeah.
It's really, really unsettling.
So you had it kind of continue over there, in Europe, but like 2 weeks ago, I was on with Raging Golden Eagle, and he made the good point that the format basically is still alive over in Japan. They do these things called light novels, and like they're usually based on manga or anime, and it's a novel with accompanying illustrations. So it's basically the same thing, and they're still hyper popular over there.
Yeah, I think that what ends up happening is a lot of people. So you have pulp skirts the line, right, between comics versus straight up novels,
right?
And I think that what ends up happening a lot, especially like in America, you have people that get very polarized one way or the other, right? Either you love comic books, they're the best way to tell a story in print form and everything else is far inferior, or comics are way too restrictive and you prefer novels because novels, you have the freedom to really live in that world and create your own kind of characters. And I feel like there's less people who are willing to say wholeheartedly, like, I'm fine in the in-between.
Right.
But that's always where I've been. I like novels. I sometimes have a difficult time with them because it's hard for me. I have a issue converting short-term to long-term memory. So novels can get difficult for me to continually go back to because I'm not a super fast reader. So trying to read a novel over the course of a good amount of time and remember everything that's happened and get the full effect of all of those little nuances that most people pick up on, a lot of those I end up missing, and that ends up sucking because it's hard for me to visualize what's going on and to remember that to recall it later. And then with comics, sometimes I blow through comics so fast, and it's because of the way that the panels are laid out. It plays like a movie in my head. Sure. So I end up blowing through comics incredibly fast, and I'll have to go back and read them 2 or 3 times to make sure I haven't missed stuff. But I like the pulp in between because it's like getting the benefit of spending more time in this world and with these characters and kind of living in it. But somebody did some of the work for me and gave me something more than just trying to use my imagination and remember long term. Like, they were like, this is what they look like. And I went, oh, thank you. Okay, good. So when I get confused and I'm reading later on and they say a name and I'm like, wait, hold on a second, I can flip back and go, oh yeah, that guy. Okay. And then go right back to it because I have something that's more concrete to help. Like, I remember reading Shakespeare in drama because we had to. I legitimately, in one part, we had to read a Shakespeare play and then we had to basically like Cliff Notes it to the class. I don't remember what play I got. I just remember that there was a lot of people pretending to be other people.
Oh no.
So there was like a guy who was drafted who was pretending to be a woman to not be drafted. And then his girlfriend pretended to be a man to get into the war to try and get with him. And people were wearing multiple hats and disguises and going by different names. And I was so fucking confused. I literally had to create popsicle sticks and cut out images of various celebrities and then make separate popsicle sticks that were their disguises. Right. So you would still know it was them, but here they're dressed as a boy right now. And like, I had those up. It took me 3 days to give the cliff notes of this play.
I could imagine.
And we rushed to the end of it. And the teacher was like, it was very thorough and good, but like, it's taking way too fucking long. We've got to move on. And I was like, it's your fault. This is Shakespeare. Like, what the fucking story is this?
Yeah. So I kind of have a similar issue. It's not so much the memory conversion thing. Like, I have a hard time with names. So
that's Cy.
So if you put something like a Game of Thrones in front of me with like 500 characters, I'm like, I can read this, but I'm gonna have no idea who's who.
Yeah.
Like I like the names just become like shapes in my head. Like,
yeah, you're like, is this the bitch with all the dragons? No, right. This is the one that's fucking her brother. Okay. But wait, so is this the one with the dragons? No, that's the little girl.
And then it gets more muddled. You're like, wait, so she's fucking dragons? Like, no.
It's like, so everybody's fucking everybody? What's going on? Like, although if you did think everyone was fucking everyone in Game of Thrones, you're kind of right.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, it's more or less correct.
So I mean, that's what works about the pulps for me. They're really. I've been saying disposable, but I think the right word is digestible. They're designed to be consumed within like 1 to 3 sittings at most.
Exactly.
And
it's
like
small snippets.
the magazines were like 80 to 100 pages, and that's what we're going for here. It's going to come in at about 112 pages, maybe more once we start like adding in the illustrations and like doing like text wrap. But yeah, like this is basically like a 1 or 2 night experience, you know?
Right. But see, that's actually really exciting because it's giving you more than just a comic. So it's not going to, just like Dave Brink said, it takes months to make a comic that provides 10 minutes of entertainment. Yeah. And I totally, that resonates with me because there's so many comics that I've gotten that I read and then I'm like genuinely bummed after because I feel like I was just getting into this world and I was just getting into a lot of these characters and now it's done. And it's like, well, hopefully they'll have another comic before a year and a half with these characters again.
And then you're going to forget all about it in the meantime.
Yeah, and then I totally forget it, and then I get the second one, and I'm like, hold on, let me go back and read the first one again so I know what's happening.
Right, and that's something that someone like Narwhal excels at, because he's really good at, like, minimal dialogue, and, like, I've talked to him about this. Like, the way he designs his dialogue, it's meant to be breezy and just carry you from panel to panel, so...
Yeah.
Those books are like, you know, close to 100 pages, but you can read them in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Dave says, are you cosplaying that Lady Shae? All she is wearing is a sword. No, I am cosplaying this lady.
Yeah, you're cosplaying Sweet Alice. So, again, like sticking with noir tropes, there's always got to be a Girl Friday. And this is Sweet Alice. She's the head barkeep of Amberglass, which is the tavern in Colon Brick, the town in which Longshadow resides.
So, Shae, I guess you're a bartender.
I am a bartender. Let's do it. You know how many times I've had people tell me I should work at a bar? It's like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, but usually as a bouncer.
That is true. I actually have been told I'd make a good bouncer. So this is something else that, I forget who mentioned it. Somebody mentioned that they really liked this map.
Turns out people are thirsty for maps. The original art for this sold within like an hour.
I mean, so out of curiosity, because I've been looking at, since we've been doing Dice Dames and Dudes, we've done a lot more D&D and stuff like that, which has led me to look at map creation.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting the way people come up with making the shapes and stuff. Do you have, like, I've seen people do the rice technique, the bean technique. I don't know if you know what either of those are, but it's basically you have like a piece of paper and you just drop a whole bunch of rice or a whole bunch of beans and see what shape it makes. And you just kind of go out around it, and then that's your terrain. What's your technique when it comes to making a map?
Okay, so with this specifically, so the Kingdom of Velos is part of a larger landmass. It extends like up and to the left, but that for the bulk of like these 3 novels, and especially if we get to tell all 9, that's not really going to be an issue. Maybe a little bit, but not really. So I just wanted to focus on this chunk, and I knew I wanted it to roughly be analogous to something like Australia. So, there were certain story beats I knew I needed to incorporate, like in the top right corner. You see these land masses that kind of look finger-like in nature. So that was one of the first areas that I started, and I knew it towards the left middle. I knew I wanted the main castle/government structure where the king and everyone resides to be separate from the main landmass. So I incorporated that next. But yeah, like it was like a shape roughly analogous to Australia. And then, like that's when you just get to start playing. Like, I think a lot of people look at the shape of a map and they're like, oh, now I have to fill it with stuff. And it's like, don't think of it in terms of like land masses and topography. Like, think of it in terms of like storytelling.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what makes maps in fantasy stories so much more popular, is because looking at a regular map, people are like, oh, and this is where the plateau is, and this is where the mountain range is. And you're like, okay, great. But when you look at a fantasy map, they're like, there's that really big fucking black castle that everything around it is dead. And you're like, ooh, that's creepy. It's right next to that swamp where all of those undead things wander around. I wonder if those are related. Like, it becomes storytelling elements that you're putting on the map, which I think is a far better way to go about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I knew Old Country existed. That's on like the lower right part of the map. Old Country is basically, again, noir tropes. It's the wrong side of the tracks. Like a couple hundred years ago, in terms of the lore, there was a big battle that occurred there that kind of left that entire region, for lack of a better word, like time locked. It's not that the lands are dead, it's that nothing new can grow there.
Yeah.
And so as a result, like most of the residents kind of exodus towards the west coast. And so now it's just like the poor, the forgotten, the criminals that kind of inhabit Old Country.
That's very cool. And I like how you have these little like inserts where it's like, oh, Marrow Dirtness is where the last Goliath, I can't read that thing, was forgot.
Right. Where the last Goliath
fought.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. But I think it's cool to have those little like, here's the importance of this area in reference to the story that you're going to read.
Right.
Especially if you're like me, where you forget things easily. So it's nice to have it where I can look at a map and go, oh yeah, that thing happened right there. Oh, okay, now I know where we are. Okay.
Right. And I like the approach to maps. You're talking about like the little notes on it. I like the approach too, where it feels like someone owned this map.
Yeah.
And made like little notes to themselves.
There's like, this was the Badlands, don't go here. Like,
right.
Circle is hilarious. This is a no-no. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's all just world building and storytelling.
Yeah, well, and I think it adds a good amount of charm to it because it's just it just makes it more entertaining. Mm-hmm. All right, so we've been talking for like 50 plus minutes. Let's go over your tiers,
sure.
So people can actually back this. All right, featured tier.
Yeah, so we do swag bags with all of our campaigns. With this swag bag, you're going to be getting a copy of Longshadow, the prequel novella, which is A Night in Amberglass. So A Night in Amberglass is 8 years prior to the start of Book 1, and it's the night that Longshadow first arrives in Colon Brick. He stops in for a drink, thinking he's just going to continue on his way, and within an hour of being there, there's a murder in Amberglass, and of course, he's a 7-foot-tall ogre, so all eyes are on him. So he has to solve a locked room mystery and clear his name at the same time. You're also going to be getting a trading card, a print of the map. You'll be getting a sticker, and you'll be getting a mini poster of the main cover.
Very cool. That, I mean, and all of that for $50. That's a good deal.
Yeah, we try to give people their money's worth.
We have the digital edition for $15.
Mm-hmm. And then the printed version of the main cover for $20. We've got Preston's alt cover for $23. It's going to be black and white, like all of his previous alt covers have been for us. But he's been talking about wanting to mess around with like gray tone stuff, and playing with like light sources and highlights. So it's still going to primarily look like this, but it might have a bit more like spit polish on it.
Very cool. Okay. Oh, there I go back in things.
How dare you.
Both covers.
Sure. So one of each. And again, like if there are any other like bells and whistles that you want to add, like we have a whole bunch of add-on tiers once you're heading into checkout.
Very, very cool.
And so then, we had the physical edition of the Chibi Pack, but it's sold out. So all that's up right now is the digital Chibi Pack. So the idea behind this is like every campaign is potentially like someone's first exposure to you as a publisher.
Right.
And it just makes sense to have like a catch-up tier. And it's like every time there's a new campaign, we're just going to add another book to that pack. That's
awesome. Very cool. So if you get the digital Chibi Pack now,
you'll be getting Samurai and Dinosaurs, Gods Fear Me, and Longshadow.
Awesome.
Yeah, like I still have some coloring to do on Deepwell, and then we have to have Eric letter it, so we need about another month or two on that.
Okay. Very cool. And then Longshadow and Red Key Clash.
So yeah, Jeff Lasley, our illustrator, he's kind enough to agree to put some of the spot illustrations he's doing up for sale. One of them sold already. This is the second one. So you'll be getting the original art, which is about 5x7, and you'll also be getting a copy of the book.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what you get for $80. I think it's a pretty good deal.
That is a really good deal.
This in particular is, like it says in the trailer, this is the first canonical appearance of the Red Key, our big superhero project that's launching in, I think, about August-ish of this year.
Very cool.
And yeah, so this is a Red Key who's way further along in his career than he's going to be when you see him at the start of his book. And like there's a ton of Easter eggs in this illustration for anyone that's read all of our stuff.
Very cool. That is a crazy price to get some original art. That's badass.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so we're rolling out these premium swag sets, which are, you get everything from the main swag set, but you also get one of the character design pieces that I did for Jeff to work off of. So this is the Prince of Echoes. The Prince of Echoes is the main big bad for the story, and I haven't been able to talk about him much, but basically I wanted to do my own spin on a vampire story. Think of him as like a magic-based spiritual take on The Thing. Basically, instead of consuming blood, the Prince of Echoes consumes a person's very soul, spirit, whatever you want to think of it as, and then inhabits their body.
Oh, jeez.
And when the shell is used up, he simply finds a new host. But again, like, the spirit's gone. Like, that person is basically wiped from existence.
Oh, holy fuck, that is brutal.
Yeah, it's really rough the first time you meet him. It's really rough. And so that leads into our drawn-in perk, which is called the Many Echoes. There will be a point in the book where we're going to get a look at not all, but a lot of the previous lives that this thing has, consumed and taken over, and you can be drawn in as one of those people.
So when you say drawn in, is there actually going to be art associated with you, or is it just being written in?
No, you'll be drawn in.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a big... trying to talk around spoilers. It's going to
be
a
splash page?
Yeah, it's going to be a splash page showcasing a bunch of his different forms.
Got you. That's actually really awesome. Okay, and then we have the Matt Burke pinup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt's been really supportive of the campaign, and he worked up this pinup that allowed us to sell it on the campaign. So we're grateful.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. And then of course, I love her as her own little pinup. I think that it's a really cool, simple character design, but it's really it gets the point across. Like, if she's a bartender, she looks like she's a barkeep.
Yeah. Sweet Alice definitely has a complex history, but again, I wanted to keep some of these designs simple, just because a lot of them were going to be like small spot illustrations, and you lose detail when you work that small. So,
well, I think it also goes really well with the whole My Gal Friday kind of character, because they're usually simple and direct, but the thing that I love about almost every My Gal Friday that you see, like when you watch Humphrey Bogart, right? Mm-hmm. They're not just like, oh no, dear, like they're all like, don't fuck with them.
Right.
Like, they're a lot more feisty than you might think. And so she's like, oh yeah, I have this tavern, and all of a sudden like a bar fight breaks out. I can just hear her be like, hey! What did I say? I'm just all right, we're sorry, Alice. Like, everybody just goes to their separate quarters. She's like, damn straight, not in my fucking tavern. Okay, I'm sorry, what were you saying? And like, just where it's, she's just somebody that you don't want to mess with, but she just is so nice, as long as you don't piss her off.
Right. It's
so I love this simple. I know. You know what? It's the My Gal Fridays are like my favorite. So I'm just like, I could just tell. Just like look at her, you're like don't fuck with her.
Yeah. 100%.
She seems just super, super sweet, unless you force her to not be, in which case she will ruin your world.
Yeah.
I'm seriously. Lola, scrub back. That's all I have to say. Just scrub back. You can see there was plenty of this. Oh gosh. All right. So then you have the main cover original art.
Right.
And is it colored?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Actually, because Jeff sent this to me a couple weeks ago. It looks gorgeous in person.
Holy cow. What did he color that with?
It's acrylic.
Wow. That is super amazing.
Yeah, it's acrylic on really thick Bristol.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
That is really, really cool.
I gave him an out. I'm like, look, you don't have to paint all the yellow. Like, I can just like Photoshop that in. He's like, no, that's cool. So yeah, the whole thing.
I love that. That is awesome. That is definitely worth the price tag too. Like, getting, as somebody who uses acrylic, getting like the good fades and shadows and stuff like that's fucking hard. I honestly, looking at that, I thought that it was like color pencil and a blend stick.
Mm-hmm. No,
and it's like, oh no, it's acrylic. Oh, that's the medium that I frequently use. Well, that's fucking difficult as shit.
You know, Jeff is a beast. He's an incredible painter. Oh, and I see Lola. That's great, Lola. I'm glad you got it.
Yes. Genuine Comics says amazing color work. Gordon Goodbrother says Sweet Alice / Shae can't yell, "You want a piece of me?" dressed like that. Oh, I beg to differ. And I have intimidated people dressed as a Christmas elf in a sweater that said "Smiling is my favorite" with Will Ferrell's face on it, and it lit up. I'm telling you, if you have the command authority, you could wear anything and scare the fuck out of people. Sumo Thori wants to know, is the Murder in Amberglass ad on Novella the same as the Death in Amber Ale novella in the swag bag?
Yeah. So, like, when I was putting the campaign together, it had Death instead of Murder, and I just forgot to change that over when we launched. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's the same book.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Sumo, for noticing and asking that question, as we like to clarify as much as we can.
Yeah.
And then the last tier is obviously Preston's, because Preston always is like, yeah, this is yours, sell it. Have fun.
And I'm like, thank you, Preston. Thank you so much.
You're like, good fuck, Preston. What the hell? You're like, do I have to sell it? Can I just put it on my wall?
Right.
Let's put it over there.
Yeah, I feel the same way with both of these covers. Like, I want Jeff's cover to sell because I want it for the campaign, but at the same time, I'm like, but if nobody bought it, then I get to frame it and put it up on the wall.
Right? And how cool would that look?
Right.
Like, that would look so dope. Especially, like, how you got the Superman in the background. Just, like, move that over and right behind out your book.
Yeah. So, awesome. Preston is best Preston.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Just going to do a quick refresh. So we're still sitting at 2561. You have 17 days left on this campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you've been making some pretty good gains in the past little bit.
Yeah. So I think the first 30 days was kind of a proving of the format and the validity of it, and towards the end of the first 30, like, we really started like gaining backers, and I mean, we're 64%. Like, I'm going to be hustling hard the next 2 weeks. I'm fully confident that we're going to hit our goal.
Well, and I always think that it's tricky.
Did we answer this?
Yes, we did. Thank you for listening to the show that you're on. I always think it's tricky when you're selling like a novel or a novella versus a comic, because this crowd is so used to comics and graphic novels.
Yeah.
So it's always a little iffy, and I really think that first 30 days is the clarification.
Right.
Like, this is what it is. It isn't a graphic novel, but it does have art. Like, it's got both. It's just a little different, and people have to kind of digest that to fully understand.
Right.
I'm really happy that you're getting on as many shows as you are. I'm happy that you went on RGE. He is phenomenal. So much fun to talk to. I've been trying to get him to come back on Red Valkyrie just to shoot the shit. Because he was so much.
I just like listening to him talk.
Oh, he just, the second he gets off on, well, this is why I think this is this way, and you're just like, yeah, I can't even compete with this. Like, continue, sir, please.
Right.
But I really, really hope that this hits funding because this needs to happen. This needs to be in our life. If it doesn't hit funding, please tell me you're going to try again.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
so you know, because of like Rossi's work schedule, you know, we do have to launch God's Fear Me 2 in May-ish, I think. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to relaunch before then, but if it doesn't, like, definitely towards the fall or like beginning of next year, we'll take another pass at Longshadow.
Very cool. Sumo Authority says just back number 49, swag bag and Preston cover.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sumo. That is awesome.
Appreciate it.
I'm really, really looking forward to this, and I know even if, you know, the worst scenario happens and it doesn't hit funding,
right?
I know that you're not going to let it go without a fight.
No.
I mean, you know, first off, this ain't your first rodeo. You know,
right?
You know, sometimes it just takes a minute, especially when you had to take such a long pause. I mean, good hell, I took a couple weeks off because of my dad passing, and the amount of people that are like, "Are you still streaming?" I'm like,
do you still have that channel? It
was like 2 weeks. Like, what the hell? I took a couple weeks so I could be there for the funeral. Y'all forgot about me.
Yeah.
So it's so, people's memories can be so short, and I'm just happy to see you getting back out there and socializing again, so people remember how much you've already delivered and how much you've been working on stuff. And
absolutely, yeah. You know, I mean, you know, people forget that with Samurai and Dinosaurs, like, we had to redo that campaign. The first one didn't go through, and you know, like, it's unfortunate the way things played out last year with some of the delays that we were hit with. And in hindsight, regardless of the fact that, like, I didn't really have anything to promote, like, I should have probably just still made the rounds just to, like, you know, not fall down the memory hole.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also kind of good, like, sending out the campaign updates. Through Indiegogo. That's fantastic. You should always do that for sure. But sometimes it could benefit to just actually go on a stream and say it out loud, because I'm not gonna lie, I get so many updates with all the Indiegogos that I've backed. I read a fraction of them. I read them when I go, the fuck ever happened to that campaign? Then I'll go back and read and be like, let me scroll through your updates and see if you actually address why the fuck I don't have my book yet. Otherwise, I typically am not hit with it unless somebody is also talking about it on a stream where they're like, oh yeah, but this and this and this happened. And I'm like, oh shit, really? Oh, okay. That, like, I had no idea. So I think that whether you have something or not, making sure that you get out and socialize just so people can see you and don't forget you, but also maybe say some of the stuff that has happened that is, you know, noteworthy. Like, saying it verbally it sticks with people longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like, I think, you know, ending last year, and, you know, like, we're at the very end of fulfillment on God's Fear Me now. You know, like, people getting their books, like Lola just mentioned, like, that helps too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, between Longshadow and, you know, God's Fear Me 2 and then Red Key, like, I'm going to be all over the place this year.
Good. That makes me really happy. I'm very excited to see that.
Thank you.
All right. I was also stalling to try and give this time to update because I want to see the number jump because it makes my heart happy. Yay!
There you go.
Fantastic. Awesome. You're now 66% funded.
2/3 of the way there.
I mean, I think you have a real good shot of hitting your funding goal. I think you really do.
Do it.
I will be a little surprised if you don't. But, you know, again, if worst case scenario happens, Mike's been there, done that. He ain't giving up, so.
No, like, yeah, whenever a campaign doesn't fund and, like, the person or the property just, like, vanishes, you're like, oh, come on. Like,
oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
I can't stand that. That is right below my people who hit their funding goal and then don't update and are, like, forever late.
Right.
Like, they're at the very, very top because, bitch, you got my money. Where the fuck's my book? But
right.
Like, having the people that are like, well, I didn't get funding, so nobody likes my thing, so I'm gonna go sit in the corner and pout. And I was like, you're not made for this. Like,
right.
Like, you sometimes you gotta look at it and go, maybe it was a bad 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's try a different time of year.
Don't try to sell your shit during Christmas.
Yeah,
right.
like,
Exactly.
there's, hey, people haven't gotten their money yet. Maybe go a little bit later and see if I can hit tax season.
Yeah, exactly. That, I mean, like, look, like larger creators, like, creators with, like, names and histories attached to them, they can launch a campaign whenever they want.
Oh, yeah.
But, if you're like a small to mid-tier publisher like us, like, you got to pick your spots.
Yeah.
I wanted to start the year off because, again, like, I knew the production times for these next 2 books coming up. So I wanted to start the year off with something. But again, maybe like launching in late January was a bad call. Like, if I had launched in late February, this might be a different story right now. But
Right.
It's also, as we talked about, like, it's one half selling the concept, but then the other half is selling the medium itself.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when you're doing something just so out of the box, like, I know at some point I want to do my horror anthology, that is going to be totally not what people are expecting, because it's poetry, it's short stories, some will be illustrated, some won't. Like, that's going to be different for this crowd. So I fully expect to have to do it at least twice.
Right.
I hope not, but I'm prepared for that, like, mentally thinking about it, just like, okay, it's probably going to take a bit.
Sure.
But
I hope not to.
We'll see what happens if I ever actually finish writing it.
You will.
I'm terrible. I need to sit down and do stuff. Sly, do you have any other questions for our amazing guest, Mike?
For the 0 I've asked, no, I have no additional questions.
Excellent.
You have answered all of my
quandaries. I try.
Well, I mean, we were pretty thorough. I actually love when this happens. So we're, an hour and 13 minutes. And the thing that I love about it is that the conversation was more. It was richer. It wasn't just, here's an Indiegogo and let's talk about it. Like, we really got to talk about a lot of things that I think makes this beneficial, whether you're watching and trying to decide if you're going to back Longshadow, or if you've already backed it, or if you're watching this, 6 months down the road and this isn't a live campaign anymore. There's still a lot of value here, and that's what I love every time we have Mike on. Is there's just a lot of good comes out of it.
And if you are watching this 6 months in the future and are still interested in Longshadow, I'm sure there will be a campaign with it up in the Chibi pack, so just go ahead and grab that one.
Yeah, see? There you go. Boom. Look at that. So for future people, we still got you covered.
There you go.
Well, I want to thank you so much for making the time for Red Valkyrie.
Thanks for making the time for me. It's always good to hang out with you both.
Yeah. Oh, we love having you. Thank you, Cy, for all of your work getting the stream set up for today. We got one more after this, and it's going to be awesome. As soon as I get back to that sewing machine and finish my stuff.
8 p.m., guys. 8 p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m.
The tweet will go out in 13 minutes.
Oh, gosh. It'll be fine. It's fine. I got this. I can do this. We're good.
Yeah.
8 or 9 p.m. 8 or 9 p.m. Maybe 10.
No, it will at a minimum be by 9. I'm shooting for 8. I've just got a lot of sewing to do.
Midnight
thank you.
Or broke.
Thank you, everyone in the chat. As always, you are phenomenal. We love you to death. Please share out Longshadow. If you have not backed it, get on that. If you have, share it to all of your friends and family. Let's get this hitting its funding goal. We got 17 days left for that to happen. And Mike is a proven creator. He delivers and delivers well. So let's make sure that we push this one over the edge.
That's what we do. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for being with us, and we will see you again at 8 or 9 or later tonight.
11:59.
Bye.